So our final guest speaker is here, Chief Master Sergeant Diane Schaefer. She is the Air Force Cyber Defense Operations Career Field Manager. She's amazing. In this role, she oversees the development and training and use of 29,000 active duty, guard, and reserve cyber personnel. It's what it says here on my slice of paper. I think the thing that's really impressive is look how young she is. She's been doing this for 25 years. 28 years, sorry. With combat tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. Meritorious Service Medal with 4 bronze oak leaves. Pretty impressive.
Thanks. It sounds way better on paper.
Okay. I think it's pretty cool. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so we've actually renamed it. So we were really confusing when we said we were Cyber Defense Operations because we're actually Warfighter Communications. So I have the IT, cybersecurity, electronic transmissions, and data personnel within the Air Force. So I don't have those exquisite DCO, OCO workforce. That would be my counterpart and good buddy, Michelle Lorden. But yeah, so 28 years, been everywhere. I'll probably talk about that here in a second. But first, I would like to thank Mr. Gorak for allowing me to interject myself into this on late notice. And so that would also be thanks to the team for all the extra work I created for you. I appreciate it. Thanks to AFCEA, as always, for doing what they do, which is taking care of our workforce. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the best boss in the Air Force. That would be our functional manager, General Kazor. And then my team, who are all here supporting me. They are ready to push boundaries. And so in the Air Force, we use this term for warfighter communications. We talk about be the bolt, because we're the lightning bolt that delivers communications. And I would say that sometimes that lightning bolt needs to set fire to what is, to build what needs to come next. And so I found it interesting when Lieutenant General Stanton was talking, and he talked about technical aptitude, lifelong learners, and that warrior ethos. And that really hits on the key. Like, learning paths and plans don't create game changers. Game changers leverage learning paths and plans, right? And so we talk about all the time when it comes to creating successful cybercom professionals, it's about looking for 4 key attributes: technical aptitude, intellectual curiosity, problem-solving skills, and critical thinking skills. If I have those 4 things, if you know nothing, we can build what we need, right? It's not about creating a lesson plan and taking someone off the street and saying, I've got the task, I'm going to teach you these, and then you're going to go out and solve the world's problems. But we need to be able to develop, inspire, and then harness those skills by putting them where they can make the most disruptive progress. And so slide. And so that really gets into what our problem is, right? So I'm going to go back in time. I appreciate you introducing the 90s. So we're going to go back in time to 28 years ago when I joined the Air Force. And I had been in high school as a junior and senior teaching computer classes at the community college and developing curriculum. And so the last project I had worked on at the community college was developing the lesson plans for Lotus 123. If anybody remembers that. So then I joined the Air Force, and so they saw this awesome skills I had, and they put me in AutoDIN. And so, leveraging that expertise. And so really, I don't know that we've necessarily gotten better. So it was very recently, we were doing our warrant officer boards, and we had this young gentleman. He was a young staff sergeant. I say young, he joined the Air Force when he was 40. But in staff sergeant years, we were thinking of him as like a 22-year-old because he'd only been in for about 4 or 5 years. However, he got his bachelor's degree in the 90s. He'd been an engineer at AT&T. And yet we just didn't want to see the fact that he actually had experience that we could recognize and that he wasn't born the day he joined the Air Force. And so really it gets to, we need to be able to assess and categorize the talent we have. And then we need to be able to drive and inspire as well as enable continued learning. It shouldn't be a battle to get training. And I think that's where we have failed multiple times is everybody's looking for that sweet spot, and we have all of these industry partners that really want to make our force better, but everybody only is as good as what they know. And that's where our fault has been. So slide. So we won't win the future fight on accident, right? And so we do have to work together as a joint force. And so when you talk about building a training capability, so I would say, how is digital university different than everything else? Digital university isn't so much an LMS, it's a marketplace, right? And so it's a government-owned platform that was developed under a dual use create a partnership agreement, right? And so the government, so Blue Suiters about 5 years ago said, we need to figure out a way to get everybody access to the right training at the right time. And we need to make it cohesive, and it needs to continuously adapt to what we need it to do. So a big data platform on the back end, so then we can do reporting, we can integrate it with other systems. And so they started out about 5 years ago, and it's all bringing in other content providers and then allowing us as the government user to curate that content based on our needs. And so I gave an example of, like I could ask someone to provide me a course on how to pave roads. And I say, this is the requirement. In order to certify people, they have to know how to pave a road. So they give me a course, all the principles that you have to meet from a foundational perspective on paving roads. But I got people in Alaska that in cold weather, you use different methodology because the cold weather will destroy those roads. And then I got people in tropical areas, and if you use those same principles, the moisture will break down the roads. So instead of teaching everybody how to pave roads and then giving that operational requirement back, what Digital U does is maps out all the sources to teach that capability and then lets you pick which one is best for your operational environment. So that's why I say, again, it's a marketplace to come into, and the benefit of economy of scale is what we can't get if we keep independently going to vendors. We pay for the same things way too many times. So slide. I don't like briefing to slides, so I just like to give people things to read while I'm talking. So just making sure that you're tracking on that. So then the question would be asked is, why am I briefing this? Like, I'm the career field manager. I have nothing really to do with Digital U. That's why I'm briefing it. I'm a user. And so I think it's really important to show, we have a lot of briefings that talk about capabilities. I want to show you how we have operationalized this capability in the Air Force and in your services, because I've got some slides that show you who else is in it, and it's not just the Air Force using this capability. So I think there's another, next slide. So we've already got 52 work roles that are addressed in Digital University. And again, I'll let you all take your pictures, and then I'll go to the next slide. Next slide. The way that, maybe I won't go to the next slide. Next slide. Oh, go back one. Is it not building? Yep, okay. So the way Digital University is different is what they've done is they've gone through and done a very exhaustive, this looks very simple, but actually on the back it's very comprehensive. They've taken all those KSATs and put them into domains. And then what they do is on the next page, next slide, they say, what are all the sources to meet those KSATs? So it's a very exhaustive process where they go through and they review the KSATs, they group them into domains, they determine what the learning objectives are, and then they map that back to sources, right? So anything that's in that application, and it's limitless what can be added, but on the back end for me as a customer, that needs to deliver training, I don't have to go find a way to buy this exquisite thing and go through this long contracting process because it's already got like an IDIQ like back. I just ask for the licenses, and then now I can give more access to the application, right? And so this is part of, saying everyone has their niche. And so this is about leveraging joint efforts while maintaining your service individuality, which means when I refine it for how I want it to look like for the Air Force, it doesn't affect how another service or another entity is making it look for their workforce. It's all tailored and customized to how you want to use it. So then who's using it? So next slide. Oh, so sorry, this is what it looks like on the right side, but there's more. I'll show you more what it looks like. So next slide. So this is who's in it right now. So you'll see some familiar organizations, but on the next slide, I'm going to break that down in a pie. Next slide. There we go. So 178,000 users, 66% Air Force. That Army, 13%, I think equated out to, well, it's like somebody else will correct my math. I think it's like 15,000. And then the Space Force, but they've just selected Digital U as their learning management system. So you'll see all of the Space Force transitioning into the application. But you can see there's a lot of folks in it. I think I have like 50 other service requests for my learning paths because they're eager to get training and they already have access to Digital U. So now let's get into, I think there's another slide to say also it's IASET accredited. So you get your continuing education credits for completion of work in there. So that's super important as we talk about how can we integrate this application, because this goes back to talent management is talked about a lot, right? Everybody throws out the term talent management. It's not a single thing. Talent management is an ecosystem, and it's an integrated approach to executing multiple components of capabilities to achieve outcomes. And so one aspect of that, right, is delivering training. And then, of course, we've got the recruiting, we've got the, evaluations, and then we've got the maintaining the status of our personnel and how they're moving through the corporation. And so the exponential capability of Digital U as a learning platform to integrate into our personnel management systems and potentially into certification systems, all of those are API connected. They're already pushed back into the readiness systems and the services. So it's not like you do things here and then you've got to go send somebody your certificate. It's automatic. When you do it here, it reflects in the service system. So, that's a huge piece of why it's effective. And then what I want to show you, and this is really why I wanted to do this briefing, it's like, okay, that's great, but like, how do you use it? So I wanted to show you a little bit of how, sorry, it's another mission partner spotlight, keep going. All right, so my demo. So I'll say, our big problem was data. Right, data operations, whether it's operationalizing data, remote process automation, how do we actually take all of our disparate data sets and give that to the mission owners? And we really don't have a workforce that's prepared to do that. And then we have this very complicated process to change initial skills training to get more people into the Air Force with these skills. So we took that problem to Digital University and I said, I want to present the data operations work role, and I want to start certifying people. So they came back to me and they showed me all of the partners that were currently in their application, and then I went back and looked at all the material and said, what best fits my need, because I'm teaching knowledge managers how to do data ops, so I need to start at the beginning, right? There's a lot of skills buildup I need to do in data science. So they presented a lot of options, and we selected the ones that worked best for us, and then we created a course. So you'll see this is what it looks like for me as the course manager. So when I go in, I put this out to our workforce. I asked for some prerequisites because I wanted a certain amount of skills to make sure people were primed for success in doing this course. So the first cohort was very small so that I could get some feedback if I needed to make adjustments because maybe the course was too over the top or not in depth enough. And so now in here I can see I got 27 learners and 10 of them had onboarded, 6 of them had already started the track. They had to sign an agreement that they have to complete it in 1 year. And so I can turn around and send updates to them and say like, hey, I'm not seeing the progress. You're not at the completion rate we want. Next slide. And then I manage my licenses here. So I have a certain amount of licenses that I can provide for folks to complete this training track. And so I know how many people I can bring into the system. And this is a page I have in there. Next slide. So this is where I build what it looks like when the airman logs into the platform. So you'll see there's a little box there where I can type in my welcome message. And then I can actually put some remedial training. So I know they're going into data operations, but maybe some Security Plus and some other courses might be beneficial if they find they're struggling. So they can go back and they can hit those and then they can return back to their plan. And so then once I finish building this, next slide, I can see all the people in it the last time they logged in. And then next slide. And then I go into my report center and I can actually pull a full roster showing how much time they're spending in the application, and it'll actually amass to how many. So I can, an 185-hour course, I can see, did they just click through and they spent 3 hours in it and maybe they already knew it? That's fine. If they did well on the assessments, then I'm just kind of seeing like how many people actually needed the training and how many people just needed an ability to certify their skills. But the rest I can see if it's taking longer than 185 hours, it's taking shorter than 185 hours. Next slide. And then this is what it looks like when they log in. So it's not this cumbersome, like you're trying to find what you're looking for. It's custom tailored to the cohort of what I want to train. And so when I add them on, it doesn't mean they don't have access to other content. Depending on the licensing model that the mission partner selects, they can still have access to go search out other content. Next slide. So they click on data operations work role. They click to view their plan. Next slide. And then it shows them all the things they need to do. It starts with an assessment, and then they do a training portion. They have another assessment. But what you'll see here is they're all from different sources. Like I have different partners that are providing different components based on what worked best for the Air Force. Next slide. And then at the end, sorry, go back one. And at the end, they have a post-evaluation and they have an opportunity to give feedback, right? So the key point in this is it's a joint platform so that all of the capabilities and all of our partners who want to help us have the opportunity to be seen, but it still allows for the service individuality so that you can make sure what works for the Air Force doesn't necessarily work for the Army. And even within the service, I can create separate cohorts that see that data differently, that Alaska versus that tropics. And so really getting into those foundational training, and then you can upload your own content. So you make your own courses, you put it in there, you add it to your track, so completely tailorable to the requirements of the organization. And what they do is part of what you pay for as a member or part of what you get as a user is that tailored view of the application itself. So you're not just purchasing licenses to access the training, you're also getting, if you want the reports to be different, it's not giving you the data you need, you don't like the way it looks, that's what they're there and you've already paid for that. So they make the modifications and then the platform looks like how you need it. And as Dr. Hadi said, we need to avoid duplication and maximize our resources. And across our services, we pay for a lot of training, 2, 3, 7, 12, 15 times. And we need to be able to have a concerted effort to deliver that training to everybody. And then bring in some of those smaller niche capabilities that maybe only teach like 1 or 2 things, but man, they are the best at it. And it's so hard for people to know it's out there. And so you don't know what you don't know. But those are the kind of things where we can leverage those and bring them in for individual capabilities. It's also IL4-5 with the option for 6. So when you talk about bringing in CUI data, when you talk about bringing in the classified, it's already there. It's on the government cloud space already. So I think that's all I wanted to say because I know there's probably questions. But the real reason I wanted to get this in front of you is because we run the risk when we continue to operate at the service level and not pursue joint solutions of losing the best thing to the training enterprises in our service. Because they're always going to be looking for most efficient and effective, and they don't always understand the cyber community's requirements. And so, leveraging this as a DCWF training platform for the joint community, bringing in all of our partner capabilities and yet still enabling that individualized support, you can never get as an effective of a cost-saving solution than pooling all of our requirements together as the DoD. So I know the team is happy to do demonstrations on this. I am not the expert on building the platform. I'm the expert on using it to train our airmen. And I'm happy to engage in also questions afterward because I think there is a social for the 12 people that aren't rushing home to dinner. And so I'll stay for that. But anybody, if you have questions now, I'm happy to entertain them. But if you want to allow the people that don't have questions to go home, I'm good with that too. Oh, Glenn?
I do have one question.
Sure.
So I noticed that you have the work role ID and everything. Is that, and this is really not for you, it's for Matt and Matt's team. Sorry. Well, the question
You
is,
can ask me.
yeah, but is that work role DoD 8140 approved?
We are working through all of that.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, this was like, sometimes you got to go at the speed of need. And right now, I cannot wait till 2030 to train data. So, I mean, if it's missing something, the great part is all I have to do is go in there and add 3 more skills. And instead of re-enrolling in a new track, that person who was 100% complete just shows 97% complete. They have 3 new tasks. We update it. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Digital University and the capability there, but it's the...
Yeah, this one was an emerging one where I said, I need this. I need the requirement now.
Yeah.
I need to create a training plan. And we're working through that. Same thing, this is almost a mirror of what our new initial skills training in the Air Force will look like.
Yeah.
And we're doing that same process to make sure that that ends up on the qualification matrix.
Yeah, anything we can help from the industry side to accelerate that additional certification and accreditation for Digital University, Matt, we are on board.
No other questions? I'll be at this social if you have any other questions. Thank you.
They're looking shy.